The dojo was stifling, sweat dripping as I struggled to generate power in my strikes. No matter how hard I tried, my techniques felt weak and ineffective. Sensei shook his head. "You're not using your whole body. There is a crucial principle you're missing." Dejected, I left determined to unlock that missing piece. As I drove home through the winding canyon roads, something peculiar happened. Heading downhill, I eased off the gas to coast. But instead of slowing down, the car kept picking up speed. I hadn't applied more power from the engine, yet my velocity was amplifying by itself. That's when it hit me. Some invisible force was amplifying my movement, causing me to go faster without expending any additional effort or resources. If I could harness this force in my martial arts, the possibilities would be limitless. The next class, I approached techniques with a fresh mindset. Practicing front kicks, I focused my movements differently, waiting for the precise moment of impact to drop my weight straight down. Suddenly, it felt like my body weight was explosively transferring into the kick with devastating power. Sensei nodded approval. "Ah, I see you've unlocked the secret." That secret is the force of gravity. One of the most powerful forces we can utilize, yet often underestimated. In defense, properly using gravity allows us to root like an arrow fired into a waterfall's downward torrent. The arrow's immense momentum gets overwhelmed and redirected by the water's gravitational force and friction. We can deflect even the strongest attacks by sinking our weight to redirect the incoming force's momentum through gravity's rebounding principle. To understand gravity's role in power generation, consider dropping a cannonball from a tower while firing another horizontally from the base. Both strike the ground simultaneously. This reveals that vertical and horizontal motions are independent when only gravity acts. The horizontal cannonball maintains its forward inertia while gravity accelerates both balls downward at the same constant rate. We can apply this by first generating horizontal momentum through weight shifts or stepping. But instead of releasing the technique early, we delay until the last possible instant to vertically drop our weight into a solid base. This instantaneously combines and redirects the horizontal and vertical vectors into one devastating strike, amplified by gravity's downward acceleration and the rebounding principle. We can actually increase gravitational acceleration itself through proper body mechanics. The lower we drop our center of mass at the moment of impact, the more gravitational force gets generated straight down into the ground. This downward gravitational weight then gets redirected into horizontal travel through the whipping motion of our hips and legs. The dropping mass acts like a weight on the end of a whip, explosively amplifying speed and power as the technique releases by combining horizontal and vertical forces. This encapsulates the one-inch punch, maximizing gravitational force and acceleration over an infinitesimal distance through the rebounding of horizontal and vertical vectors. Applying these gravity-driven principles, I could feel my strikes becoming sharper, more penetrating. My body mechanics finally aligned with nature's forces rather than opposing them. What was the missing ingredient? Gravity. That same force which amplified my car's velocity without additional effort or resources. That downhill drive was my light bulb moment about leveraging gravity. Once I understood how to harmonize with this ever-present force, my martial capability leapt ahead. So embrace gravity, make it your constant training partner. Root yourself like that arrow vainly fired into a waterfall's massive gravitational flow. Then combine that grounding with gravity's acceleration to generate devastating striking power by uniting horizontal and vertical vectors at the last possible instant through the rebounding principle. Become one with the forces of nature, and your martial arts will flow like a crashing waterfall over the rocks. Imagine you are that horizontally fired cannonball from the Galilean cannon thought experiment. You carry immense forward momentum, an unstoppable force hurtling through the air. But then you strike the immovable object, the Earth itself. What happens when this unstoppable force meets the immovable object? The answer is, the unstoppable force does not simply stop or get absorbed. Instead, it rebounds off the immovable object in a new direction determined by the angle of impact. This rebounding principle is key to understanding how we can redirect an opponent's incoming force in martial arts. When a powerful attack comes in, we don't try to stop or absorb it with brute strength.
That would be like trying to be the more immovable object, which is futile against a greater force. Instead, we harmonize with and redirect the incoming energy, like the Earth redirecting the unstoppable cannonball. By sinking our weight and rooting our stance, we become like the immovable object. The opponent's strike acts like the unstoppable force crashing into us. But rather than absorbing the impact through strength against strength, we utilize gravity and body mechanics to rebound and redirect that incoming force onto a new trajectory, one that is harmless or even potentially damaging to the opponent themselves. It's like the arrow analogy. Trying to penetrate the massive downward flow of a waterfall head-on is futile. The gravitational force will simply overwhelm and redirect your momentum. But by syncing and aligning with that gravitational flow, you can harmonize with it and safely redirect the forces. On the offensive side, we actually want to replicate this unstoppable force effect with our own strikes. By uniting the vertical gravitational weight of our drop with the horizontal inertia of our technique, we create an unstoppable force that will rebound with devastating power upon impact. The opponent's body acts as the immovable object that our strike crashes into. But instead of simply absorbing that impact through resilience, their body is forced to redirect that incoming force, taking the brunt of the rebounding energy. So, in defense, we become the immovable, gravitationally rooted object that safely redirects the opponent's unstoppable attacking force. In offense, we use gravity to create our own unstoppable force that the opponent's body must rebound and disperse. This rebounding principle, derived from the collision of the unstoppable and immovable, is what allows us to harmonize with and redirect incoming and outgoing forces rather than trying to overcome them through strength alone. It is the essence of embodying gravity as a martial artist. Mastering the rebounding principle allows us to turn an opponent's force against them with minimal effort. It's the martial art of catching the pitch and redirecting it back at the pitcher. Think of a professional batter hitting a 100 miles per hour fastball. They don't try to absorb or overpower that velocity with brute strength. Instead, they harmonize their swing timing and body mechanics to redirect and even amplify the incoming force. By sinking into their base, dropping their weight, and rotating their hips, the batter is able to transfer the pitch's unstoppable momentum into a new trajectory, sending that same 100 miles per hour force screaming back towards the pitcher at an even greater velocity. This is the martial art of receiving to send back. We become energetically connected to the incoming attack force through grounding our root and body unity. Then we rebound and redirect that energy using gravity, body mechanics, and proper angles, not muscular tension. A tense muscle is like trying to be the more immovable object. It will shatter against a greater force. But a relaxed, rooted stance aligned with gravitational forces can harmonize and disperse even the most explosive incoming energy. The lower we can drop our weight and align our body mechanics, the more gravitational force we can generate to create an unstoppable strike. The rebounding principle then transfers that kinetic energy shockwave through the opponent's body with maximum penetration. In this way, we become the masters of receiving forces safely, only to send them back concentrated, amplified through the universal laws of gravity and motion. Offense imbues us with unstoppable, gravitational forces. Defense allows us to harmonize with and redirect incoming, unstoppable attacks as the immovable root. It is the martial art of embodying the cosmic interplay of the unstoppable and the immovable, the infinite expressible through the finite physical vehicle. To receive without receiving. This is the path of the gravity-guided martial artist.